Hi there, and welcome back to this video series on childhood trauma. Today I want to cover something really important, and that's the relationship between childhood trauma and addiction. And we know addiction can take so many forms. They can take the really intense and powerful forms of alcohol addiction or drug addiction, including the very common one of marijuana today. Or it can include other forms like love addiction or sex addiction, which is also a form of somehow numbing the pain that we're going through or finding a distraction to keep us from having to sit with ourselves and the pain that we might be holding in ourselves. It could also include, as we know, work addiction or also media addiction. Just when someone's in a state where they have to zone out and just spend many days or endless hours on Netflix or YouTube or Facebook, and it's so hard to be with themselves. It's so hard to be in the world in a real way. So this is a real result of childhood trauma and a real pain and suffering and struggle that people go through, and they don't want it. As we know, so many times people struggling with addiction, they didn't ask for it. They're trying their best to get out of it, but they need real answers and real tools. And the question is, how do we get around it? So today we're going to explore two ideas to begin seeing the framework for healing. The first idea is the idea of internal regulation versus external regulation. So imagine if someone's feeling a lot of anxiety or a lot of fear, or their mind is racing and it's hard for them to calm themselves down, or it's hard for them to regulate, or it's hard for them to sleep. So they need something to take the edge off. So then they might feel, okay, I need to turn to one of these substances that I use that helps calm me down. If it's a pill or marijuana or alcohol, they know these are the things that I use to regulate myself. And if we look through a compassionate ear, obviously they deserve the right to be able to regulate themselves, because who can live that way with so much anxiety, with so much of a racing mind, with such a lack of ease or comfort or safety in their body and in the world? Anyone will need to take the edge off. What I want to offer today in this first part of the solution is that there is such a powerful, real option available for internal regulation, which is through using mindfulness and through helping ourselves right there, right then, thinking about a safe place and other tools to help your body regulate from the inside. One can really shift how they're feeling right then and take off the edge in other ways. And we're going to have more videos that are going to explain exactly how to do it, exactly how to regulate from the inside. But the first thing I want to show you, and I promise this has happened to me hundreds of times with clients, where they're feeling anxious, they're feeling that edge, and just in 2 moments, it can change. You can say, let's just put your feet on the ground. Maybe just place your hand over your chest where you're feeling anxiousness. Maybe just notice your breath for a moment. Or maybe just think of a safe place or someone safe. These are things that are starting to help your nervous system learn to regulate. And as I said, we'll discuss more of these, so I don't want to get into specifics, but the idea is we can bring in safety into the body and nervous system now as an adult. We can help it regulate. We can help it take off the edge through real, accessible, and simple but so powerful tools. So that's the first thing. As you're struggling with addiction, validate to yourself the need to take off the edge, because who can live that way? But also think about this idea of external regulation, meaning using something outside of you to help regulate that, to help calm you down like an outside substance, or starting to orient yourself to the idea of internal regulation, of helping to bring your nervous system to a place where we're helping calm the nervous system itself. So we're not putting a Band-Aid or just numbing it, but we're helping teach the nervous system and teaching your body how to slow down and calm down and feel safer. And I promise you, there are really easy and ways to do that that can really work, and we'll get into that. Let's move on now to the second part, the second theme that I wanted to focus on in terms of healing addiction and childhood trauma. So this theme is less about regulation, like needing to take off the edge off because your mind is racing or just feeling anxious, but is a little deeper. This is about when one is hit by the depth of their pain, or the depths of their sadness, or the depth of their hopelessness, or feeling hurt and sad and abused. And that hurt is, or loneliness, and that hurt is just so deep. And it feels like there's no floor under you when you feel it. When you hit by it, it's just like totally, hits the person down. It's not like there's a floor to stand on. The imagery that comes to my mind is like, imagine if you're swimming and you want to swim fast, so you kick off the edge of the pool. But imagine if there's just nothing to kick off of, meaning you're just there sort of floating in the pool alone. There's no foundation to give you a sense of like, I'm okay, I'm good, and now I'm feeling some pain. And it's like the pain just totally takes one over in such an intense way that they almost feel they have no other possibility besides falling into the addiction. So I get that. I want you to hear that I get the depth of that pain to the best that I can. But let me offer some conceptualization of how we can go about beginning to heal this. And that is, we have to find ways to start creating that floor, that bottom, to be able to stand on, so that when the pain comes, we have some foundation. And there's a few ways to do this. Number one is obviously just being in a compassionate environment. So let's say you're in a AA group or some sort of supportive community or group, just knowing that they care for you, just knowing that they have your back, just knowing you can reach out to them, creates some sort of floor, so when that pain comes, you're not so alone, and it's able to give a chance. Also, obviously, having a supportive and compassionate therapist who's able to look at you not just in the lens of your damaged self, but sees the whole of you, and is also able to see compassion for what you went through. That oftentimes can begin to build that foundation up, so we're not so alone. We have a witness to our pain. We have a witness to what we went through, and then that allows things to start shifting. Also really important, when we start doing the really deep inner child work, and we listen, when the client themselves listens to their inner child, of the fear that it has, of the pain that it has, and so to speak holds it, so to speak acknowledges it, lets it know that it hears how scared it was, and start to give that child some of what it needed, then that child, so to speak, is a little less frightened. It's a little less alone, a little less like you're just floundering there in the ocean or in the middle of the pool. And you have a little bit of something under you, that understanding, that validation of what one went through giving that validation to themselves through their own inner child work and with the therapist as well. And lastly, though, I'd want to add is being able to use higher power, being able to feel held through higher power, knowing that higher power is loving you, trying to help you through this, can also, as we know, be such a powerful tool in this process. So I want you to think of all of that. Sort of this idea that we can shift our states, that even if your nervous system wasn't regulated, we can teach it, we can regulate it, we can learn that nervous system plasticity. And so to speak, also if we felt like we had no bottom and we're just so alone and that pain makes us feel so alone, by introducing these other elements into our life, the group, the higher power, our own inner child work and therapy work, we start to build some of that foundation so when the pain comes, it's a little less intense and it gives us a fighting chance. Okay, I hope all that information is able to come together for you to give you a picture of how we can move forward with childhood trauma and addiction. And I look forward to sharing even more ideas with you soon.